Well, you mentioned the clergy. We talked a little bit about your background in the past, and I had asked you that question in the first hour about the barriers coming down between the UFO people and the ghost people. How much of those barriers are coming down between, theologists and people who look at things through a religious lens and people who research the paranormal? Because I know that was always a point of contention for a lot of investigators, is that you would run up against a lot of resistance from those in the clergy or from those who were just looking at things through a religious lens.
Oh, sure. Well, one thing to realize, Tim, I think, is, and a lot of people don't realize this, is that clergy are not, and even Roman Catholic priests are not routinely trained in this subject. People assume they are, but that's not true. I mean, you study theology, the history of the church. There's a little bit of it in your final year, your deacon year in the Roman Catholic Church. And in the Orthodox Church, it's really not touched on very much. And in most Christian groups, it's considered to be demonic. So people are not, when they are trained in it, it's a very narrow point of view. And the ones who are trained in the Roman Catholic Church are the ones who end up the diocesan exorcists. Every diocese has or is supposed to have at least one priest who is specifically trained and prepared to go into situations where they judge that an exorcism is required, or at least that some kind of counseling is required to resolve what they consider a paranormal situation. In my day, we were coming off December of '73 when the Exorcist film was released, and all of a sudden, front and center was this topic. You never heard about it really much before that. I was interested in it, of course, but I was weird. So they clammed up. And I would say, and again, like they're going to listen to me, I'm a young seminary student. They didn't like me even being involved with the Warrens. They didn't like the Warrens. They didn't like any of the stuff I was doing. But I said, why don't you just tell people this is what we believe? Don't worry about it. This is what you do. But no, they just clammed up, which only makes people more curious. So that probably was a mistake. But now, as I understand, now I'm out of touch with all those channels now. But I had two friends at the Vatican who were priests, one of whom worked in the secret archives. There really is such a place, actually, in the library. But, like they're going to tell me. I'm the last one they're going to tell what's going on. But there does seem to be a new openness as far as the ideas about exorcism and training of exorcists is concerned. Now, there are people running around. Ed Warren claimed to be the only official sanctioned exorcist. I never saw any proof of that. I mean, with all due respect to him, he was a good friend. But and there are people who call themselves demonologists and all this. And if there's any formal training or approval by the Roman Catholic Church of these people, I'm not aware of it.
Right.
So, I mean, these are people I would be very careful about, anybody who calls themselves a demonologist. But there may be a new openness about it, but not that open where they're just taking people off the hobbyist street there and making them exorcists. That's just not happening.
Well, I think that some people who have had a long experience around it, somebody like Keith Johnson, he does do exorcism work when necessary, and he does consider himself a lay demonologist. He considers himself somebody who is familiar with it and experienced with it, but would never never try to supersede the church in any way. I think that people like that, there is a need for, and there is a lot that can be learned from watching them, observing them, and from studying with them. But too often now, being a demonologist is just your quote-unquote role within your paranormal group. Somebody has to be the UFO guy. Somebody has to be the equipment guy. Somebody has to be the psychic. Somebody has to be the demonologist. It becomes what you're going to put under your name on the website more than it is what you're actually going to concentrate on and devote your life to.
Well, that's it. Well, I have no right to say whether someone's qualified or not. I certainly wouldn't do it. I just assisted at these exorcisms in the past, but it just, from my seminary training, such as it was and as far as it went, I just would be very careful about, applying labels to myself like that. So, but again, that's people have to make their own way. But as far as considering yourself something or not, I mean, I want someone who knows more than I do to be considering me. But that's me.
Have you had have you had experiences in paranormal research that have made you question things that you studied in the seminary, that have made you wonder if I know that you yourself and Ben, you talk frequently on the show about the connection between ghosts and God. Have you seen things that have kind of made you maybe have a more direct connection with God and with a greater power than the human interpretation of things is what I'm saying. Has that kind of opened your eyes more in a spiritual manner than if you had just gone to seminary, learned things, and never realized that the paranormal was real?
Well, how long is your show, Tim? I really have to answer kind of a big yes to most of that. My beliefs are very different than they were then. I found the with the greatest respect, particularly for the Orthodox Church, where I ended up after graduating from my second Roman Catholic seminary, which was the college level. I was ready to go on to graduate seminary studies, which would have been 4 years of theology leading to ordination. And I just said, a lot of things I learned in the paranormal were that they have made God far too small. And I thought that I saw maybe in the Eastern Orthodox Church, which most people just only know the name, a more ancient and broader view of God. And in many ways, it is. But they're the ones who threw me out of the seminary 2 years in because they didn't like my paranormal work. I should have had my nose in my books, and I was too young to be dealing with this and all this, even though I've been doing it for years and years and years with some of the finest experts, at least in the Roman Catholic Church. So that was as it was, and maybe the church and I both had a lucky escape. But as the years have gone by, yes, I have found. I think that I mean, I have again. I will always respect the church because that's where I learned to love God. But I think that there are. It's just so much bigger that I've seen sort of with paranormal research, especially when you look at the world and its history from the viewpoint of the paranormal. When you really look at it, Tim, the paranormal is the background to the entire human experience. Had there not been questions that our remote ancestors had, why did the saber-toothed cat eat my sister, something like this, or why did this happen, or why did that happen? Or if they had not felt they were in touch with supernatural beings of some kind, there would have been no religion and probably no science. So in a way, you can call the paranormal the mother of both science and religion.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Let us know what you thought about what you just saw. There's little like and dislike buttons underneath that you can click, but really what we want to know is your thoughts and opinions on the guests and the topics that we cover here on the show. So be sure to leave a comment underneath, and we'd love to find out who you are and where you're listening and watching from.